Alright, welcome back home, everybody. Did you enjoy not being home for 24 hours? Oh, it's time to stand. It's time to stand at home. The fuck happened to me in the 10 minutes it took me to edit and upload that last video? The hell? One of Rachel's old autumn clothes hung on the rack. That was Norman's bedroom, wasn't it? What was this doing there? A speck of something dark and wet stained on one of the sleeves. It was jizz. Inside the cabinet was a small but impressive collection of hunting rifle, shotguns, and even a few items I didn't think were legal here. Much like the gun being in my pocket and not having a permit. One of the slots on the rack was empty. The gun I had found seemed to match the others there. If the handgun was Norman's, what the hell was he doing with it? The gun would fit there. I carefully pushed the piece back in place and felt a great burden lifted. Norman, what were you doing with all these? Norman? What were you doing with all these? Why is there blood on your floor, Norman? What's this? It looked like a pull chain hanging from the ceiling. I wonder where it led. I pulled the chain! It was off the chain. I gave the chain a single tug and a simple folding that into the attic popped down. TV still flickered some indecipherable channel. Oh no. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Norman, my coworker, and one of the few friends I had in this town lay dead beside his armchair. His face and shirt were covered in blood. It looked like he'd been shot trying to get up. His eyes were wide with shock, though they were already drying. Norman, what was Rachel doing here? Why did you have her coat? Norman, maybe you deserved better. You probably did. I closed his eyelids down, shuddering as I did so. I wasn't sure if wanted to give him peace, or if just couldn't stand to think anymore about what was going on. I hoped to hell Rachel had nothing to do with that mess. So let's go to the attic. There was a large cardboard box that hadn't been sealed. I opened up the old cardboard box and wasn't entirely surprised by what I saw. There were more of Rachel's things, more of my wife's clothes, photos, shoes, even that old radio I gave her. Why, Rachel? What were you doing here with Norman? I just couldn't believe it. My head ached with everything that was running through it. They were shooting porn. That's what it was. I guessed this was Norman's kitchen table. He kept it clean enough, but there were water rings from 2 cups sitting there in the wood. The kitchen trash bin smelled fresh. I didn't dig through that mess, did I? I found a hairpin amongst the rotting food and trash and pocketed it. There were takeout containers and food scraps. Looked like Norman was eating for 2. That rat bastard. He fucked my wife with his fucking prick, the prick. Did you fuck my wife? Don't even get me started. Did you fuck my wife? You fucked my wife with your fucking prick, you prick. I need to check that place out to see if I can find Norman or get help. You found Norman already. And you sure do need help. The general store was small, but it was clean. The usual things: postcards, snacks, magazines, condoms, and canned goods. I never went there much. Rachel usually stopped by after work if we needed anything. The register was mostly empty, and a fat stack of travel magazines sat beside it. I wondered if someone had robbed the place before killing Norman upstairs. The icebox seemed to be unplugged. Must have been off for a while. Most of its contents were half melted. What was the matter, Norman? Cheated on your hydro bills, too? There were various postcards from the area, especially from the tourist traps. One of the postcards showed an old black and white photo of the water tower. It looked to be in much better shape then. Of all the postcards, that one seemed to be the most popular. There were only a few left. It'd been weeks since I'd last seen Norman, and finding him that way still left me cold. Thinking of him slumped against that chair only cemented my reassurance in getting rid of that gun. It looked like someone had taken that piece from his store, but why was it in those tunnels? As I stepped outside, I recalled that dusty old box of clothes in Norman's attic. I felt like I had only discovered more questions, no answers, but I was close to home. It was time to find out the truth. It was locked. This wasn't the right gate. We're going to the very end of all of these alleyways and whatnot. I had the wrong gate. This one was locked. The neighborhood's local post box. A letter was sticking out, as if someone hadn't pushed it in all the way. I knew it wasn't right. You know, it's against the law. It's a federal crime. But I opened the letter. The envelope was addressed to Norman. There was no return address, but the handwriting looked familiar. I took a deep breath and tore open the package. Norman, I'm sending this to you in a letter because I'm afraid to tell you this in person. What we did, well, it was wrong. My husband isn't an easy man to be with, but he is my husband and your friend. I need some time to sort this out away from you both. I'm going away for a while. I'm going to tell him, Norman, so don't you think you can hold that against me? Don't you do it. Maybe we'll work it out. I'm not sure I even want to, but he deserves at least that much. Goodbye. This is definitely blood. So there is nothing beyond the blood. I had entered our backyard. The rain gave me a terrible sense of foreboding, and it chilled me through my clothes. I was expectant, but also afraid. I held my breath as I approached our back door. I was terrified to step inside. The house was painfully quiet. The only sound was my own breathing, ragged and strained. I flicked the light switch by the door. The power was off. I remembered having breakfast here on this very table. Was that yesterday or sometime before? There was a small pile of mail on the floor, in front of the mail slot. How long had I been away? Why hadn't Rachel picked this up? I was possibly kidnapped. Why didn't my wife pick up the fucking mail? Most of the contents were bills. There was a credit card bill there. I ripped the bill open and read it. To my surprise, it said something about canceling my credit card due to non-payment. The hell? Excuse me. The door to the basement was locked. Where did I put the damn key? Where did I put the damn key? The door was stuck shut. Where the fuck did I put the key? I had found the last missing piece from my wallet. It was a picture of Rachel. It didn't make me feel terribly comfortable, but I kept it. Put it back in my wallet, feeling like I got part of my life back. Still, the image made me uneasy. Why had I thrown it away? A television. I had purchased it before I knew I was gonna lose my job. I felt pretty guilty about it afterward, but by then it was too late. Rachel was pretty angry about that, I realized. Damn door was stuck shut. Was it stuck shut or was it locked, sir? There's a big difference. The books there were half mine, half Rachel's. Hey now, you're an all-star. I looked at more closely. It looked like the man in that house had some of the same books as I did. One book in particular seemed a bit odd. I remembered owning it, but not that edition. My wife's, Rachel's suitcase was sitting on the bed. It was closed, but I had a feeling what was in it. Inside Rachel's suitcase were a few days' worth of clothes, some personal effects, and a train ticket. As I stared at the ticket, I could feel myself flush with anger and resentment. The date and time matched the receipt I had found. Rachel, why? Were you really going to run away with Norman? Was I really such a monster? I mean, you probably killed her, so... yeah. Our hallway mirror had been smashed, its pieces scattered around the floor. I couldn't really make myself out anymore. I wasn't sure I wanted to. Our sink, which needed to be replaced. One of the taps always stuck, but I hadn't gotten around to fixing it yet. The old house was charming for sure, but it wasn't always easy. We were lucky enough to get a house with one of those wonderful old claw-footed bathtubs. It seemed impractical at times, but it was part of what made that house home. My laptop had been left on and only had a tiny bit of power left. On the screen was a website about the old water tower. There was a key in the top drawer of my desk. I pocketed the key. The laptop was warm. It had been running for a while. And then I leave. And then I comes back. And it's dead. Oh, no. Down the stairs we go. Into here? No. Into here? Front door was locked from inside. I couldn't go out though. I needed to see if Rachel was here. Is she in the basement? Old Christmas decorations in the box. Couldn't even remember our last Christmas. Garbage bags were stuffed with old paint cans and supplies. There was a dirty old key there. Took the small key and tried to remember what it unlocked. There were old clothes, tools, and other things we obviously hadn't thrown out yet. But way too much junk. I put this divider wall up. I had put up this divider wall last summer so we could create a separate room in the basement. I hadn't finished it yet, so the door was stuck, and the drywall was poorly installed. Might have been able to break through if I found something heavy enough. Like a crowbar? Let's go into the... yeah, that place. Oh, excuse me. The grimy key I had found in the basement unlocked the door. It looked like the room had been tossed around. The furniture was a mess. Did someone break in here? There was an old crowbar on the floor. I lifted the heavy crowbar. I appreciated its weight. And that's all there was in here. Let's go break a fucking wall that I put up with my own bare hands. Did I break through the wall with the crowbar? With a heave, I swung the crowbar at the wall. I smashed a hole large enough to step through. As I stepped through the broken wall, my breath caught in my throat. This was it. Was Rachel down here? Was she okay? Don't look. Oh, I'm looking. Don't look. I'm looking. A filthy-looking pile of rags had been dumped in the corner. The stench of them was awful and made my eyes water. I was terrified to even touch the pile, to see what lay within. But I knew I had to. I had come this far. After all this searching, after all I had seen, when I looked within the rags, did I finally find my Rachel? Yes. Oh no. My hands trembled as I pulled back of the layers of cloth. There at the center, under all the dirt and mess, was my beloved, my Rachel. Her arms were bruised all over and slashed repeatedly. Her clothes were ripped and torn, and even through all that sickening blood, it was obvious she had been stabbed to death. The knife I had carried all this way suddenly seemed like a poison. What had happened, Rachel? Who did this to you? I thought about all I had seen and wondered if any of it could help me figure out who had done this. And when I couldn't stay there any longer, I stepped away on shaky legs and made my way back upstairs. Reluctantly, exhausted from my journey, I could no longer resist the urge to close my eyes. Maybe I would use some of Rachel's travel books and find some place to go. No matter what, I needed some kind of escape. It was my wallet with its contents intact. Either I dropped that stuff or somebody else did. Maybe I was sleepwalking again, or maybe somebody stole it from me. Norman's store, that forest, the water tower. Was I at those places before? I didn't see how it could have happened any other way. I must have been the one to lose my wallet and all its contents. But what does that mean? There, that was decided. This was the old photo of that other man and his wife, I assumed. I found it in that house. I recalled those faded remains I had found deep underneath his house. What had he done there? Well, what did I think? Was that man involved in this whole mess somehow? Definitely. Those tunnels, the odd tools in his house, and the remains of his wife. He wasn't innocent, that's for sure. But who had killed him? Within the few broken pieces that remained of that mirror, I could see my face had grown pale and weak. I couldn't bear to look again. It was like I didn't actually expect a reflection. I felt empty and drained. Perhaps I would never know how that mirror came to be broken. Was it by Rachel's assailant, or by Rachel herself? The thought lingered and would haunt me forever. The reflection in that grimy glass was only a shadow, a whisper. The quiet in that room unnerved me terribly. I still loved the old-time charm of that claw-footed bathtub, though it seemed like cold comfort then. Rachel loved this part of the house. It was the keycard I found at the bottom of the factory locker. I never did bother to use it. Someone had been going through those lockers and poking around the plant. Still, it didn't quite add up. Was I the one who had been going back to the factory? It looked that way, didn't it? That locker room. I had given up drinking, but I had made up my mind. The laptop had finally run out of power. How long had it been left running? Hours, days, weeks. I don't know. My old office safe sat on the floor. I used to keep tax records and other important documents in it. I used a digital passcode lock, but I didn't have the code. Maybe I had left it somewhere. I leafed through the notebook I had taken from the forest. In it were the names that had been written down. Heather, Olivia, Ashley, Cheryl, Iris, Daphne, Holly, Rose, Rachel. Those poor girls. Were they victims of the same person who had killed Rachel? I wondered what happened to the other names on that list, or the ones scratched out on that desk in those wet tunnels. The man in that house. Was he responsible? When I woke up, I had found him dead already. It was the letter I had taken from the postbox. Rachel, were you really having an affair with Norman? But why? I didn't think things were that bad. In the letter, Rachel seemed concerned. She almost seemed worried of what Norman might do. Did he... Did he do that to Rachel? I think I did that to everybody. I don't think Norman did that to Rachel. Because, I mean, he didn't even get the letter. I'm gonna go with no. Norman may have betrayed me, but I didn't think he was capable of that. I hated him. I hated him so much, but I couldn't blame him for what happened to my wife. I didn't know what to think. I just wanted to put this whole mess behind me. From now on, I'd have no one to get angry with me for stupid things like buying this TV. Just thinking about things like that made me sick with grief. Good grief. But, I already went in here, right? Yeah. Seemed like I had seen all there was. Maybe, I thought. I was ready to go back into the basement. Mail still sat there, heaped on the floor. How long had Rachel been lying in the basement? It seemed like that mail had been there for a while. There would be no more dinners here. No more chit-chat over breakfast. At least not for us. I couldn't recall when I'd last ate, but I wasn't hungry in the least. If I was guilty, I could take this to a warm, safe place and do something about it. I took the knife and kept it firmly in my hand. I stared down at the floor where I had placed the knife. Is this what it all really came down to? Now that I stood there, I realized I couldn't go back into that room again. I'd already seen too much. I needed to put an end to the situation, one way or another. Must have locked the door. There was no reason to return to the backyard anyway. Needed to put an end to the situation one way or another. That's a really big house. No matter what, I needed some kind of escape. Okay. Well, because there are different places that you could end the story, so I thought maybe I could find one of them. But it looks like I'm just gonna walk out. What about the knife I still carried? I wondered, even if I left, would it really be over? I peered at the knife as I turned away. A warm place, I had thought. Where could that be? A warm place. The laptop is warm, I guess. A warm place. The old claw-footed bathtub hadn't been cleaned nearly enough. Still, it would probably do. If I wanted to, I could use that knife to finally end this. The question was, did I think I deserved it? Did I? Was this my fault? Living in this town hadn't been easy. The plant had helped in some way to stay grounded, kept me in line, gave me something to do, and helped me get away from my past. When the factory closed, everything changed. I guess that was when I had started sleepwalking, disappearing for hours at a time. I had MRIs and piles of doctor's reports, but nothing seemed to help, not even drinking. But I swear I had tried to give up. I know it. Sleepwalking never really went away, though. But I know Rachel had tried. I know she had tried to be there for me, even when everything was falling apart. This night had unearthed terrible truths, but I knew it was a final act of the long-standing horror I'd been living. Waking up in that house tonight was the final cruelty. I wish I had remained unconscious in that room forever. It was obvious to me that the man I had found in that house had something to do with all this. Could he have killed Rachel? It started to seem that there were too many things I had seen to think otherwise. After making it out of those tunnels, I thought those sewers might feel safer. I was wrong. Security tape I had watched showed someone being attacked by what looked like two people. But who was it that was attacked? I'd found the contents of my wallet scattered throughout town. Why the hell had I been out there? Had my sleepwalking gone to some new extreme? I thought that I couldn't account for my whereabouts, but knew I had been to that forest and even Norman's place. Well, it was terrifying. I didn't know what that meant, but at least I had recovered my things. Hopefully, I thought. That would cover my tracks, so I wouldn't be blamed for all this. Even more troubling were those poor girls I had found in those terrible woods. Half hidden in a shallow grave, their secret deaths seemed like the ultimate defiling. If I hadn't found them, would anyone have done so? Would they have even been missed? I vaguely recalled the desk I had seen in those tunnels, the names etched in there. Someone had killed those girls. Was it that man? It was clear at least that I had been the one going back to the factory. I must have been sleepwalking or something. What the hell was I doing there? I had given up drinking, hadn't I? So what was going on in that boarded-up room? Suddenly my stomach started to turn. Was I responsible for that dead guard? After the factory, I thought I might find some solace if I could just get to Norman's store. But all I had found were more horrors and more questions. Now that I really consider it, that's when I should have seen it coming. Norman, what were you and Rachel up to? It was obvious things were more complicated than I'd ever imagined. How long had you been going behind my back? More importantly, why, Norman? Whoever had killed Rachel had probably gone after you too. Maybe they knew about what you were up to. I would never know peace, Norman, but despite your transgressions, a part of me really did hope that you would. When I had marched through the rain towards home, I desperately clung to the hope that this would end. And I guess in a way it did. But how could I have known how hopeless it all was? I had started to feel as disoriented as when I sleepwalked. To think of it now. I guess I should have known from that terrible silence that greeted me when I first stepped into our house and stood there in the kitchen. There was no sound of television, radio, even the air was still. But seeing Rachel there, lying ruined and discarded in the basement, that was a horror I could never have imagined. I didn't know if I'd ever find the answers I craved, but I knew that somehow that other man I had found was responsible for this. If not directly, he must have had a hand in Rachel's death. So what was I doing in that damned house of his? Had I found out? Had I killed him? My damn condition made it difficult to know memories, and time frames were always a mess, and I could never be sure. Knowing that man was dead, though, was cold comfort. My wife was gone, and no matter what happened to me now, I was lost forever. I put the knife down and drew a long, warm bath. Slipping into the tub, I was surprised with how calm I felt. I heard it was like going to sleep if you did it right. So I held my arms under water as I made the incisions. Though the initial sting came as a shock, it was only a matter of minutes before I felt myself ebb and fade. After that, the room washed to a calming, comforting shade of gray. Damn. I really do enjoy this game, and I like that it has some replayability to it as well. But I think that's it of this game. Thank you everybody so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. I already said most of my thoughts about it in the last finale. But yeah, it was nice. I mean, it was dark, that ending, but it was nice. Nice to play. I guess for the last couple days of Spooktober, it'll be Resident Evil 2. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Have a happy whatever. Always remember that your future is unwritten, so make it a good one. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.